Hey there, Hofstra fans, and welcome inside the WB Mason Coaches Report on GoHofstra.com. I'm Julian Coulter, joined by the head coach of the Hofstra Pride baseball team, John Russo. Coach, how's it going?
Good, Julian. Thanks for having me.
Well, we'll look at this past week. Finally have some games to talk about because you guys went out to the West Coast to take on Grand Canyon University and went 1-3 overall in a 4-game series. Before we kind of dive right into the overall parts of the series, what were your thoughts on the weekend?
I thought Grand Canyon was a really good opponent. Their preseason pick to win the WAC, so it wasn't like cake games to get out there. But they played really well. Their starting pitching was really good. I thought it was just nice for us to even get outside. Let's take baseball out of the equation. The mentality of what this winter, the snow, everything is causing everybody. It was nice to just walk around outside, and I thought we were able to get to see a lot of things and make better evaluations and improve on things, and it was a good weekend overall just to play.
Now, last week you mentioned to me the starting pitching for Grand Canyon. We'll start with them. You mentioned that they had guys that go 6-7 innings, and that's sort of the things that you saw, guys going 6 to 8 innings per game. Do you think that stymied you guys a little bit?
Oh, I thought it was the key of the whole weekend. The guy opening night went 9 innings. He was still 91, 92 in the ninth. He was really good, George Perez. And then their second guy went 8 innings, so that's 17 of your first 18 innings. And then their game 3 guy went 6, so now you're at 23. And then the game 4 starter, a freshman, went 6 innings, so that's 29 of your 35 innings pitched. And that's how you win baseball games. You get good pitching. You try to stay away from your bullpen. Kids are in the bullpen for a reason usually, and we only got to see their bullpen for I think 7 innings, and or 6 innings, but the time we were in it, we did damage to it. But those starters were really good. They proved up to the reputation on the scouting report and what we had heard, and they were really good.
Now, as far as your starting pitcher goes, game 1, Dave DeRico goes. And you mentioned to us before that last year he obviously came back from Tommy John, but you didn't feel as though he was 100%. He gets the loss in game 1, but do you think he finally is back to where he was old times?
No, on the bad news front, he hurt his elbow in the game, so that was the reason he left. He left because of injury. He's getting an MRI this morning, I believe, at 8. We're waiting to hear this afternoon what it is. We're hoping he tore through old scar tissue. Nick Kozlowski felt like he had this happen to him about 2 years into Tommy John. So, to be honest, we're really hoping for best case scenario as of this moment. But it was a real morale letdown, I think, when you saw David get hurt, and you kind of knew early on he didn't have his best stuff. He didn't really have velocity. I finally went out and asked him how he was, and he said his elbow was killing him, and but it shows what kind of competitor he is. He tried to go out there for 3 innings and compete, and didn't want to come out. And he did a nice job. If we make a play probably in the first inning, he doesn't give up a run, and would have been off to a pretty good start.
Now, as far as the middle games go, you guys win 1 and you guys lose 1. The pitching there, David Jesh picks up a victory in the game that you guys win, and offensively, Ferguson had a really good day over the first and second day for you guys. What you like from the middle games pitching wise, and then we'll get to the offense.
I thought Nick was really good. I thought he threw really well. It was a really good game. And it was funny as, the old statement of one swing of the bat changes the game. And, Nick made a fastball up to a kid that was really hot, De La Guerra, the whole weekend. And kid hits a grand slam, and, a good 1-1 game just turns into a 5-1 game in a hurry. And, on a different note, it was Nick's first collegiate home run that he'd given up in 4 years. It was his first collegiate loss on Game 1 on Saturday, so it was a lot of firsts for Nick in a bad way, but hopefully we get him his first rebound win after a loss. But then I thought Eisenberg had really good stuff in Game 3. He was just walking people, and we really needed a win right there, and so we went right to Jesh. I thought he was good. He had 1 tough inning, but overall his stats on the weekend were good, throwing strikes 60%, and then, to have Brian McDonald came up with a couple of huge ABs in that game, had a big double to get us going, and then came in and throws an 8th inning relief, strikes out a guy with the bases loaded, was a great pitch, and then Schreiber to close it out in the 9th, I thought was really good in typical Schreiber fashion.
That brings me to the next point, which is the bullpen. And Schreiber, he got a couple guys on base, but obviously you mentioned he closed it out. Do you think as though the bullpen is at a point where it's a strength like it was at the beginning of last year?
We're really trying to figure out that, a guy who had, super tough luck was Kevin Weishauser. I thought he pitched really well on the weekend. He had 3 good outings. Probably should have taken him out after he got the 2 outs yesterday because it was his 3rd day in a row of work. But they had a couple lefties starting inning, wanted to see if he can go out there. Because at that time it was a 5-0 game. I felt like if we could keep it right where it was at, we had a chance to strike because I thought we were going to eventually either get to the pitcher or going to get back in that bullpen again. And, so he gave up a couple runs, which made his ERA not look great, but I thought he had a really good weekend. I thought Brendan Mulligan was really well out of the bullpen this weekend. I thought he threw well. Graham Tebbett had 2 appearances on the weekend, was real good. I was real happy with what we saw from Kieran Ryan. But, more importantly, it's just you can only do so much inside the pen. You have to see how they do in live competition. We need some more time, more games to see more reps from guys. And there's definitely guys we're not out of by any stretch of the means.
Now, as far as the offense goes, throughout the 4-game set, you had guys that obviously came up big. I mentioned Eric Ferguson as well as Kenny Jackson. Obviously, we know he's a staple of the lineup. Coming into this game, you had mentioned what your lineup might have been if you guys had the opportunity to play a week ago without the snow. Do you think now, after the series is done, the lineup's where you want it, or is still some tinkers to be done?
No, I think there's still tinkering to be done. I mean, you probably, you had Kevin Brantley back to the mix this week, and, I think he'll be somewhere in the mix. And I switched it around a few times. I couldn't figure out, we have a really good mix of speed and good hitters right now, and try to figure out which direction it is to put them in the best. I don't think Matt Ford's the prototypical 4-hole hitter, but, it made the lineup really work when he got into the 4-hole. And, I think we get Cafiero going, he'll help in that spot. Brantley helps some in that spot. We had other guys, I liked what I saw from Brad Witowski this weekend. I thought he could help. David Lederman, had a nice weekend swinging the bat. So I've got to still figure out what's the best, mix and order. I thought the year that we had the 34-win team, that was a big thing. We had a lineup that we could go to every weekend. And right now, that won't be the case probably for a little while, I wouldn't think. But, having Eric Ferguson was really good for Hofstra baseball. He played really well, swung the bat great, had a lot of big hits, stole some bags, played great defense. He couldn't have been a better player on the weekend.
Now, obviously, with the box score, maybe it's a little bit deceiving, and you mentioned their pitching was really good, but do you still think that your lineup got the reps that you would want to see against guys that are that type of pitchers?
Well, it's tough. There was, on Friday night, there was a lot of cross-checkers, scouts, and the fans all to watch the Perez kid who was throwing. Mm-hmm. And, the guys that I talked to after game 2 cross-checkers, they said it was the best he'd looked. And, he had a fastball in play at 91, 93 all the way up until the 8th, and he was still 91 in the 9th. He had a plus changeup. He had a really good slider, which he usually doesn't have in play. So he has 3 pitches in play, and it's our first weekend out. So, that game, a couple guys got 3 at-bats. Some guys only got 2 at-bats, And then the next day, the freshman All-American, he was really good. He had 3 pitches in play and had really good stuff. And, so at the end of the day, some guys only had 9 at-bats on the weekend, started 3 or 4 games. And, you'd like to see more, and, I think if we could have had we had a chance or 2 to strike on the lefty on Saturday that I think if we could have got a big hit, we could have done some damage and maybe got to the bullpen earlier, but we weren't able to do it. I think maybe later in the year, those are hits or times that we'll take advantage of.
Now, as far as going forward to this week goes, what sort of things do you want to see from the guys?
We got to get the pitchers, really working on staying in the strike zone. 4 games, 21 walks, I think it was. It's just too much. And, I don't mind giving up the hits. Like, Chris Harkey on Sunday, he didn't have the best of all outings, but I thought he really competed. And, he only had 1 walk, a leadoff walk. But then after that, he threw a bunch of strikes and he gave up hits, a couple bloopers here, guys just missing right off their gloves, just a little bit of bad luck. But, I can live with that type of start at the end of the day. I have a hard time living with 4 or 5 walks and just giving it to them. And, I think throwing strikes is a mentality as much as it is physical. And, we got to get the guys confident in throwing the ball over the plate. And, the thing on the offensive standpoint that we have to do is we have to have better quality at-bats. We gave away a lot of at-bats, up in the count 2-0, 2-1, and, missing underneath and popping balls up. And, I think we were trying to do too much damage instead of just making a good swing and getting a hit. And, but that's first weekend out, and you hope that things are getting better. But those are the things we have to work on better.
Coach Russo, thanks for the time.
Thank you for having me.
And remember, Hofstra fans, you can tune in through the WB Mason Coaches Report each and every week on GoHofstra.com.